Om. अखण्डमण्डलाकारम् व्याप्तं येन चराचरम् तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्रीविद्या शिववामभागनिलया ह्रीङ्कारमन्त्रोज्ज्वला श्रीचक्राङ्कित बिन्दुमध्यवसति श्रीमत् सभानायिका श्रीमत् षण्मुखविघ्नराजजननी श्रीमत् जगन्मोहिनी मीनाक्षीं प्रणतोऽस्मि सन्ततमहं कारुण्यवारानिधिम्। जय जय जगदम्ब शिवे जय जय कामाक्षि जय जयाद्रिसुते जय जय महेशदयिते जय जय चिद्गगनकौमुदीधारे कारणपरचिद्रूपा काञ्चीपुरसीमिकामपीठगता काचन विहरति करुणा काश्मीरस्तबककोमलाङ्गलता। All glories to the Master, whose tapas invokes the Divine Mother in a very happy, smiling mood. Narayan Namaste. So continuing on with Tripura Rahasya. Last time we saw how Ashtavakra was defeated. He actually first defeated everyone because of his strong intellectual knowledge. And when Tapasi, the yogini, came and proclaimed in the Sabha that the only two people who actually are the true knowers of the truth are me and the king, Janak. Everyone else here only carries intellectual knowledge, including yourself, Ashtavakra. And she proved it by posing a very simple question: what is it? After knowing which, you have no need to know anything else. The unknowable becomes known. What is it that attaining to which you don't desire anything else after that? What is it? And to that Ashtavakra replied, oh, it's very easy. It's the self. Once you attain the self, you don't have any further desires to attain anything else. It cannot be known. It is not agneya vastu. It is not an object that you can know. It is the knowledge itself. So to that, Tapasi replied, well, you're saying it is not knowable. Yet you are saying after knowing that, you will get to that stage, which means you're self-contradicting your statements, which also means that you have no direct experience. You're just speaking out of bookish knowledge. I'm only here to show you the mirror that, hey, all this knowledge you have is nothing but intellectual knowledge. That is my only job here. I gotta go now. All your questions will be answered by King Janak. He will answer all your questions and remove all the doubts, and he will impart that knowledge to you. I gotta go. Peace out. So the yogini or the tapasi says, I'm leaving. You can take on this thing with King Janak. And then the King Janak imparted all the knowledge to Ashtavakra, and Ashtavakra eventually became a Jivan Mukta. This was the story told to Parshuramji Maharaj by Dattatreya. And Dattatreya, Bhagwan Dattatreya told this story to tell Parshuram that intellectual knowledge is needed, Parshuram. With a purified mind, listening attentively to your Guru's instructions, having no doubts about the concept, the subject matter, is called Tatastha Gyan, which means you are sitting at the edge of a river and you are saying, okay, the river is this much wide, this much deep, there is so much gallons of water in the river, the quality of the water is fresh water or brackish. You have all the knowledge, but you're on the banks of the river. That is called Tatastha Jnana. So Dattatreya says to Parshuram, what you have listened with a purified mind and what you have completely assimilated with your intellect is called Tatastha Jnana. It is a step, it is needed, because without Tatastha Jnana, you cannot move further. You cannot have confusions about the subject matter and then expect to have realization. You need to be crystal clear in the entire subject matter. You need to be crystal clear. That clarity, yet without realization, is called Tatastha Jnana or Paroksha Jnana. Now, I will tell you how of course, Parshuramji Maharaj asks. It's not like Dattatreya starts revealing. He says, now tell me step by step, what exactly was the conversation that happened between King Janak and Ashtavakra? What were the instructions given to Ashtavakra by King Janak so that he attained that state of Jivan Mukti? Expound to me. So now today's discussion, today's chapter is all about, well, there are two chapters that describe the entire knowledge given by Raja Janak, by King Janak to Ashtavakra. Today we will take up the first chapter. And after these two chapters, the Guru is ever so compassionate. He repeats the whole thing. He gives the essence of the two chapters in the next chapter. So today we will take up the first instruction, because who knows how many of us are at the Tatastha Jnana, or who knows how many of us are still unclear. Whether we are clear or whether we are unclear, it is the will of the Divine Mother. If, however, we say, oh, this is too hard, this is not for me, right there, it's like, if, let's say, you are at your work and they just introduce something new and you are clueless about it, then you will take courses, you will go on Google, you will listen to videos, you will do your homework to know that whatever they have launched new. You won't just say, wait a second, this is not for me, I don't understand, let me just give it up. You will make an effort. That's what we all have done in our lives, right? If something new has come in our professional field, we make it an effort to take some CE courses. Okay, I need to be up to date on how to use these things and or this technology or this new software. I need to be up to date. So I need to attend these meetings. It's a mandatory requirement for us in America to take 30 hours of continuing education courses. Because at that point, I'm like, I better learn this. I need this for my worldly life. But when it comes to this knowledge, we are like, there's no rush. I'll do it. I don't get it today. Let me just not pay attention. So the Kavis from, back in the time, whenever they would recite their poetry, people who didn't understand the depth of that poetry would leave the sabha feeling ashamed, saying, oh my God, I could not understand. Nowadays, the Kali Prabha, because of the Kali Yuga, people blame the poet. I don't know what garbage he has wrote. No one can understand it. So with that mindset that this is for me, this knowledge is for me, how can I bring this knowledge into my realization? Mull over this day in, day out, especially this lockdown time, nothing to do, nowhere to go, constantly. What does this word mean? How can I realize this? Because the inner the antaryami within us, the self, watches our efforts. Because it's only the grace of the self that the realization dawns. No matter how much effort we do, the effort will not give us realization. The effort will earn the grace of the self. Because it's a state of non-doing. It's a state of non-action. Action in inaction. It's a state of non-doing. It cannot be achieved by doing. But the doing, the constantly striving to get to that realization, proves to the antaryam, the inner self, that, you know what? She's serious or he's serious. Don't give up. Any time, all the time, most of the time. Just see what's going on. What's going on? Play with it. Don't become serious about it either. Play with it. What is this fourth state? What is this witness state? We all know waking state. We all have experienced dream state. We all have experienced the sleep state, deep sleep. Here, Tripura Rahasya introduces us to a fourth state, which is a state of witness. Whatever you're looking in front of you, instead of engaging your mind and starting to observe, I see this, I see this, I see this, I see that, I see this, instead of defining what you see, instead of defining the scene with the various names and forms, try to see how you can be a witness. Let everything be as is. You don't have to negate the scene either. Yet, can you be there without defining the scene as a witness, which is the fourth state? Just fluff around, just play around and see, hey, what's happening in the fourth state? Let me just see. Let me just be a witness. If you're watching a movie, the witness state will be the camera. We are so involved in the movie that we are just involved in the happening of the movie. But if you just bring your attention to where the camera is, how the camera is moving, that's a witness. It is just capturing the overall picture. No one can give you, this is how the witness state is. Only the grace of the self can say, hey, let me give you a glimpse of what a witness state is. But for that, you have to prove to your own self. You have to earn the grace of yourself. And the self is the Divine Mother. Self is the Guru. So let us put Abhyas Atishaya Jnata. That is Mother's name. Abhyas Atishay. Atishay is the superlative degree. Extreme amount of practice. Abhyasaatishaya jnata. She is known by extreme practice, a lot of practice. If you just decide that, okay, morning and evening I'm going to sit for meditation, your mind will say, okay, this is meditation time. After that, enjoy. Keep the seated meditation times if you like, but also bring in your practice all day. So, wait, we did this. Let me get to that. The dialogue between Janak and Sage Ashtavakra. This is where we are. So he says, please tell me everything in detail. What conspired between them two? What did Raja Janak say? What did Ashtavakra ask? What were the instructions given to Ashtavakra? So basically, Ashtavakra posed the question to Raja Janak. The lesson that was imparted by the lady sage was very compact and abstruse. Therefore, I could not assimilate it fully. Kindly tell me the way to attain that knowledge. Right? That's what we want. We want it given out to us in the most simplified way. So then King Janak says, listen, this knowledge that you were just talking about, it is both knowable and unknowable. It is unknowable because it is not an object that you can know. Yet, it is not unknowable. It is knowable also because if it were totally unknowable, what is the work job of a guru? The gurus out there are imparting that knowledge, which means it's knowable. Yet, I want you to understand it's not like a worldly thing, like a cup is in front of you. You can know the cup, but you cannot know the self like that. In that context, it's unknowable. But in the context of a guru disciple, it is knowable. So the highest state is neither knowable nor unknowable. Had it been unknowable, how could my master have taught me? The highest knowledge is imparted by the Gurudev alone. Only the Guru can impart that highest knowledge, and all the highest teachings are imparted in silence. Therefore, we should work hard on silencing the mind, keeping it empty. Therefore, one should seek the refuge of a master with reverence. Attaining that state is both very simple and very difficult. Now, let us see under what conditions is it simple and under what conditions is it difficult. If the mind has no clue that the self exists and is out there in the world with all its senses deeply involved, it is very difficult. Because in that state, the mind is all about, if I can touch it, I know it's there. If I can see it, I know it's there. If I can hear it, I know it's there. It has the certificates from the senses. The credibility of the existence of something is dependent on the senses. In such a state, it is very difficult because the self is not something that can be experienced by the senses and proven to the mind that here, we experience the self, hence, this is how you know it. It is very difficult. So, antarmukha samaradhya, bahirmukha sudurlabha. Bahirmukhatva, or an extroverted approach, or looking for the self outside, is very difficult. Now, what is easy? How is it easy to attain the self? The mind that has two qualities. It is pure and it is detached. How do you attain purity of mind? Mind is impure when it has thoughts, when it has sankalpa vikalp, when it has constructs, and that is all the Mind and Divine series. It's about how to empty your mind, how to recognize the concepts. Empty, 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 keeping the mind empty, free of thoughts, desires, expectations, mental constructs, viewpoints, perspectives, all of that. That is a purified mind. Second thing is detached mind. Detached mind means you understand very clearly that the scenes outside keep changing, which means you're not too attached to what's happening outside. Today it's this way, no big deal. Tomorrow it will be some other way. A sense of detachment from outside happenings, a sense of detachment from the inside happenings also. Today I feel this way, tomorrow I'll feel totally different. So a sense of detachment from outside happenings and inside happenings. So that is a detached mind. Second, a pure mind. There is a third quality, which is one-pointed. Which means, we talked about this during Hemlekha Hemchurupakhyan. We said if we are looking for a gold earring that is lost, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a gold earring that's lost. I'm not going to look at the sofa and first proclaim saying, this is not a gold earring. I'm not going to go to a table and say, this is not a gold earring. Hence, this is not a gold earring. This fan is not a gold earring. Hence, this is not the gold earring. You see, I'm dispersed in my search because I'm looking at the sofa, I'm touching it and saying, nope, this is not the gold earring. Then I'm looking at the table, I'm touching it, I'm feeling it, I'm like, this is not the gold earring. So what Raja Janak says is, don't do that. If you're looking for something, look for it. Be one pointed in looking for it. So three things: a purified mind, which is an empty mind. Second, a detached mind, which doesn't get too attached with the happenings of the outside world and the inside world. Third, one pointed. One pointed as in the mind's only job is to look for that witness state. See, the mind is either engaged in the world or engaged in the search. Raja Janak is saying, engage it in the search. Because only through that engagement, you gain the grace of the self. The self says, oh, you are struggling so much. Let me tell you. Let me tell you, my silly boy or silly girl, that I'm beyond the mind. So in that search, the mind becomes quiet, quiet, quiet. And then when you look in front of you, the mind is quiet, you're fully aware, you're just a witness. But that fourth state keeps slipping away. It's not easy to hold on to that state because the mind is used to slipping away into the observation mode. And that's what Raja Janak explains. Listen, Ashtavakra. The mind has two aspects to it. One is illumination, the second is deliberation. Illumination is whatever, let's first talk about deliberation, okay? Whatever is in front of you, just observe it. When I say observe, pay attention to everything in as much detail as possible. You will see the mind starts defining. It gets into a mode of this is called this, it's made up of metal. It will start giving you essays. Everything, it will start observing. Go ahead, let's do this exercise for a few seconds. You see how quick it is? It will tell you this is a Sri Chakra. That is the picture of Swami. That is the Vigraha of the Divine Mother. This is a lamp. There is ghee over there. There's agarbatti. It's very quick. in observing. Now, this is mind in deliberation mode. This is the worldly mode. When you're out and about, you look at people, oh, she's this, she's so, she's dressed so and so. This one is walking weird. This one has a good car. He lives in a beautiful house. All this mind continuously keeps feeding you. Moment after moment after moment, the mind just keeps telling you everything that it's seeing. You need this mind to carry out the worldly affairs. You need it. When I'm working on a patient, I know I need this particular instrument. I need this particular file. My mind is trained. I have trained my mind for deliberation so I can perform all my worldly acts. But there is another state of mind, which we will observe, which we will try to get into right now. So, with your eyes open in front of you, without defining anything, without focusing on anything particular, just a state of witness. You still see everything around you, yet you're not focused on any one thing. This is the state of illumination. In this state, there are no thoughts. There is no judgment of names and forms. But the mind, through its senses, is perceiving everything. This is the state of illumination, when the mind is flooded with the light of the self. And that's it. It's not defining, it's not creating thoughts that this is a bell, this is a vigraha, this is that. None of that. The mind, fully illumined by the light of the self, is just witnessing. So, this witness state, play with it. Don't make it a serious chore to do it. Play with it. Fluff around with it. It is your home. Even in a state of deliberation, the mind is flooded with the illumination of the self. Without the self, there is no knowing, because the self is that through which we know everything. But everything we know cannot know the self, because it is the very medium, it is the very source through which we know everything. And what is moksha? What is Jivan Mukti? Jivan Mukti is a state wherein you are continuously aware of the self through which you know everything. Even right now, as I talk, as the words are just flowing, the state of illumination of the mind is expressing as deliberation. Mind is ever flooded by the light of the self. Imagine the mind to be a room, for example. There's 100 things in that room. Remember, there is space also. That space is the light of the self. The mode of deliberation or observation is when you're saying there's a sofa, there's a chair, there's this, there's a clock, there's a fan, there's curtains. You're into a mode of observing what's in the room. State of illumination is you're only looking at the space that houses all of this. So the first thing to do is reduce the clutter in that room. Tavadeva, as much as is needed. Reduce the clutter, increase the space. The emptier the mind gets, the higher the state of illumination of the mind. Deliberation will continue. Deliberation is also a function of the mind. That's how we perform all our worldly acts. But is it needed to keep the mind so busy and occupied with thoughts and emotions and desires? Free up the space, declutter, simplify, empty. And then the state of illumination, which means the mind will be flooded mostly with the light of the self. And such a mind will have clarity. It can just pierce through problems, it can just pierce through issues. But a cluttered mind, the light is just lost in all this stuff that's in the room. The space is just getting lost. Empty it, empty it, empty it. So this is King Janak saying, attaining that state is both very simple and very difficult. One whose mind has become one-pointed and inward, for him it is easy. One whose mind remains dissipated in the external world, for him it is very difficult. And then he goes on to say how that which is not self-existent reality is subject to change, which is what we've been discussing. The outside world and the scenes and the people and circumstances and situations, they keep changing. A month ago, we were all working. We were all leading our lives normally. And today, everything has changed. In a month, everything will change again. Consciousness is that through which all objects of the world are known. It is the basis of knowing. You open your eyes, you're looking, whatever you're looking, the only reason you know it is because of the light of the self. The light of the self floods the mind as illumination. That light disperses into the world of names and forms as deliberation. More the mind is kept empty, more you're able to see things as is. More the mind is cluttered, more that light of the self is scattered, more there is colored vision, conditioned view of the world. Consciousness cannot be divided into parts. The division is seen in the world of objects. Their names and forms are different. Be aware of the absolute consciousness by eliminating all these fleeting names and forms. O Ashtavakra, King Janak is saying that consciousness cannot be divided. The consciousness that's within is expressing outside through the mind into all these objects of names and forms. It seems they are all different. It's the same light that's making it all available. So instead of your mind focusing on things, let it focus on that which illuminates the things. As the various images are seen in the mirror, similarly, pure consciousness assumes the different forms of the world. If you look at a mirror and all the things that are being projected in it, it looks real. It has the depth, it has the three-dimensional structure, but when you touch it, it's nothing. It's just the mirror. The mirror has assumed. So similarly, the pure consciousness, Sat, Chit, pure, Sat is Shiva, Chiti is his light. The Chiti itself has become everything, manifested. O Ashtavakra, realize yourself, understand it. You are neither your body, nor prana, nor mind, for they are all ever changing. The body is a component of three humors, Vat, Pitta, and Kapha. How can they be your true nature? You are not the body, senses, or mind because they are all transient. You can know your body, you can know your senses, you can know your mind, which means they are knowable. But that which makes you know all of these, that is your true nature. The supreme consciousness never loses its self awareness. Therefore, this consciousness is the knower of all. Turn your eyes inward. He says, not these eyes that you look with, the mind's eye. This is what was given to Arjun, Jnana Chakshu. You cannot look at me, Arjun, with these eyes. I will give you Jnana Chakshu. I'll give you the eyes of knowledge. Through that, you can look at me. So he's saying, Ashtavakra, turning the mind's eye inward means directing the mind within, because nothing internal can be seen without an without an inward and one-pointed mind. He is saying, till the time your mind is only interested in outside happenings and inside happenings, it's dispersed. The whole point of Mind and Divine series, Depression to Devotion series, was to detach ourselves from the outside happenings and the inside happenings, to create a sense of detachment in the mind. That detached mind turns inward to the self. That is the goal of Tripura Rahasya. That now that you have detached your mind from outside and inside happenings, where do you attach it to? You attach it to the self. Komal, would you please mute Jayshree? Komal, you have to hit mute all participants and you have to check or uncheck. Do not allow them to unmute themselves. Narayani, Namostute. So Tripura Rahasya is for this detached mind, this empty mind. Where does it go from here? It cannot be left in the air. It needs to attach to something higher. That higher, giving a direction to this mind, is Tripura Rahasya. And then he goes on to say, when a person wants to look at something, he first withdraws his attention from everything else and contacts only the object that he wants to see. See, this is what we were achieving through Mind and Divine in Depression to Devotion. We were withdrawing our attention from everything else. And through Tripura Rahasya, we are attaching to that which we only want to see. Only then does it perceive it. Without focusing his mind, he cannot see even objects directly in front of him. Those who do not withdraw their attention from here and there cannot see the objects in front of their eyes. O Brahmin, the nature of other senses is similar. Please listen attentively to what I have to say. The Atman is within and without the orbit of the mind. You see, the entire mind is flooded by the light of the self. The entire mind. Yet, it is not just contained only within the mind. It is not bound to the confines of the mind. The entire mind is flooded by the light of the self. Imagine that room. No matter how packed that room is, no matter how much we are hoarding in that room, there is still space. It's because there is space, all of that is allowed in there. So similarly, because there is light of the self pervading throughout the mind, it allows for the thoughts and everything to be present. But doesn't mean the self is the mind. The self is beyond the mind. Self is the source of the light of the mind. Even the knowers of the Vedas and Shastras are deluded at this point. As regards external objects, the mind gets distracted in two ways. First, withdraw the mind from the objects of charms and temptations. Second, lead it to the goal of life. So he's saying all you have to do, Ashtavakra, is detach your mind from everything that's transient. Jagat is anything that has gati, constant gati, is Jagat. So detach your mind from everything that's transient and ever changing and impermanent and attach it to that which is the goal of life, which is to attach it to that which is ever present. Bhav is that which is ever present. Bhavani is Bhav's Shakti. Then he goes on to say that consciousness can be realized simply by withdrawing the mind from all objects, which is what we did in the previous experiment of observing versus witnessing. In observation, the mind was active, it was keenly observing. But simply by withdrawing your mind from the scene in front of you, consciousness, we got a glimpse of consciousness. So consciousness can be realized simply by withdrawing the mind from all objects. If one wants to see the image of a certain object in a mirror, he must turn his attention away from all the other images and one pointedly fix his mind on the particular image he wants to see. Don't we all do that? Let's say we are, in front of the mirror and we see something black on our cheek. So although we are seeing so much in the mirror, we are seeing our face, our hair, our forehead, our shoulders, the attention then becomes one pointed and we look at that black dot. So Raja Janak is saying, similarly, Ashtavakra, detach from everything that is transient. Focus your mind on that which is ever present. And then he goes on to give the example of space. He says space is everywhere. It is the foundation all. It is the foundation of all. Therefore, when all objects are taken away, image-free space is clearly seen in the mirror. Similarly, consciousness is all pervasive and the foundation of all. O Brahman, like space, it is ever present in the mind. So as we go through the day, the mind, as Swami says, quoting Lord Krishna, he says, mind alone is your best friend and your worst enemy. If it is outwardly dispersed in the transient world, it's your worst enemy because it will take you far, far away from the goal of your life. But if it is directed in search of the truth, of the one that's ever present, the Atman, the Self, it's your greatest friend. So continuously keeping the mind empty, playing with the witness state, constantly playing with the witness state. Because, here, everyone can read the book by themselves and understand it according to their intellect. But the goal of these satsangs is to come up with a practical application that we can walk away with and we can practice. Thus, for self-realization, King Janak is saying, thus, for self-realization, one simply has to withdraw the mind from all objects. O Brahman, can you find a place where consciousness is not present? There is no place where consciousness is not present. Therefore, this diversity of names and forms in this world that you see is a creation of the mind and its modifications. Remember, the mind has two states, state of illumination and state of deliberation. From all the schooling that we have done, we have learned this is called a lamp, this is called a table, this is called a sofa. We have learned it all. I have a 1-year-old nephew, and every time he comes, we teach him colors. Oh, what color is this? What is this called? What is that? Oh, that's a lake, that's a fish pond. That's the state of deliberation. And then there is the state of illumination, is that space. is filled with the light of the self, because of which my nephew is able to start holding things in it. This is a pool, this is a lake, this is a fish. He's just gathering all this stuff, which is why the process of self realization is unlearning. Then you're like, okay, I already know. No one needs to again, it's not like we will ever forget that this is a table, this is a lamp. That knowledge will remain. Yet we choose to be in a state of illumination. It's a choice. Now it should be clear to you. Sorry, it says realization of consciousness requires absolute purity and not mere concentration of mind. That is why the self is called unknowable. It is not subject matter. Therefore, the mind cannot know it. The mind just needs to be empty, to be in a state of illumination. That's it. Because when it is in a state of illumination, the quality of the mind is that of the self. And then, because the entire quality of the mind is that of the self, there is no distinction. We get to get a glimpse of the reality. The impurity of the mind lies in the thinking process. If the mind is free from thoughts, it becomes pure. Now it should be clear to you that purity of mind is important for realizing the self. The self can never be realized without a pure mind. And then he says, all spiritual means are meant for purification of the mind. And that's what Swami keeps saying. Just keep working relentlessly on self-purification. You can do japas, you can do meditation, you can do nam smaran. All of these things are to purify the mind. Because, as I said, purification of the mind is bringing the mind back in a state of illumination, making the mind filled with the light of the self, wherein you change the very fabric of the mind, wherein you change the very quality of the mind. The austerities of selfless action, selfless devotion, and the practice of non-attachment are performed for the sole purpose of purifying the mind. Otherwise, they do not serve any other purpose. The Lord of life is seen in the purified mind. Hearing this from King Janak, Ashtavakra inquired further. Now Ashtavakra has questions. So he says, O king, you said that if the mind is purified by the absence of thought, pure consciousness manifests itself. Then it follows that sleep can bring about self-realization and one does not need to make any effort. Don't you love this question? This is so typical of us. Tell me the shortest cut, Swami. Tell me the shortest cut I can get there. Swami Rama says the shortest cut is cut the ego and you're there. But of course, we all know it's not that easy. So Ashtavakra is asking, so you're saying when we are thoughtless, the mind is pure. And when the mind is pure, self-realization happens. So why doesn't it just happen in deep sleep? I'm thoughtless. Without any effort, I could become self-realized. Every night, go to sleep, wake up self-realized. Why isn't that happening? So then King Janak, goes on describing that how in deep sleep, the one thing that is absent is awareness. We are not aware that we are thoughtless. So as Swami says in his meditation videos, the short clips that he made for Black Lotus, he says, absence of thoughts and awareness is silence. You have no thoughts and you're perfectly aware. That state, when prolonged, is samadhi. In deep sleep, there is absence of thoughts, yet the tamas, the veil of sleep, covers it up. But since the proximity to the self is so pleasing, it's so difficult for us to wake up from sleep. We love sleeping so much because we're so close. to our true nature, to the ocean of bliss. It is covered by the veil of sleep. It is covered by this veil of tamas, of being unaware. And this is what Raja Janak is saying, that the mind is completely veiled by tamas. How can one experience the absolute in such a condition? If a mirror is painted black, nothing can reflect in it. Similarly, when the mind is veiled by the inertia of sleep, it is not able to respond to illumination. It is like the eclipse of the moon. Because, as we said, a state of illumination and state of deliberation. State of illumination is you are aware. You are aware and it is empty. You are thoughtless and you're aware. That is the state of illumination. So he's saying when the mind is veiled by the inertia of sleep, it is not able to respond to any illumination. It's like the eclipse of the moon. And then he goes on to say that is why an infant does not experience reality. That's why kids are said to be in samadhi. They have no thoughts, yet they are unaware. So, two things are needed: thoughtlessness and completely aware. So, he says, in deep sleep, the mind is veiled by slumber. Therefore, for lack of clarity, it does not shine forth. See, from this point, we understand that the self shines forth. And that's what we see in Swami. The self has completely, is shining forth through that mind, which is in a state of illumination forever. So, from that state of illumination, the self is shining forth. The person, a person who is awake remembers the sleeping state. In that state of mind, one can recollect the experiences of the sleeping state, which means as soon as we wake up, we are able to say, I slept so well. I didn't even have a dream. That's all we can remember. In that state of mind, one can recollect the experiences of the sleeping state. Apart from that, nothing. But the clarity of the self, clarity of the light of the self. So when that room that we are talking about is completely empty, it is flooded with the light of the self. And that, such a mind has clarity. Such a mind, that's what he was talking in his video yesterday. Because he's so clear. That's why troubleshooting is like a game to him, because he's so clear. He can pierce through situations, he can pierce through scenarios, he can pierce through problems with his clarity. So then, this is what Raja Janak then starts explaining the state of illumination and the state of deliberation. He says the inner state of illumination is experienced when one contacts external objects. The state of deliberation occurs when the objects are seen. See, in a state of observation, you are seeing. There is a difference in seeing versus witnessing. And that's something you just have to notice. See, in seeing, the mind is active. In witnessing, the mind is quiet and you're just witnessing. Experiencing something without feeling distinctions of this or that is a state of illumination. When a verbal distinction is made, such as this is this, then that state is the lower state of samadhi with seed. This is where he introduces nirvikalp and savikalpa samadhi. This drama has two aspects. In this drama, what is seen is direct knowledge. That which is based on logic is called remembered knowledge. Again, let us not get too confused with terms here. One is direct knowledge, wherein you are witness. You know everything. If need be, you can focus on each thing and say, this is this. But you're in a state of illumination. Your mind is empty, you're not judging, you're just observe, you're just witnessing the scene in front of you. And then there is remembered knowledge. Because I have learned that this is called a vigraha, I'm able to say, oh, this is a vigraha. This is remembered knowledge. And then there is direct knowledge. And that is what I was telling you how someone asked Swami, what's the difference between you and me? And Swami said, I see things as they are, direct knowledge. You see them with your colored vision, with your judgment. And that's what in Zen retreat he was talking about non-judgmental awareness. This is a very popular term used in Zen, non-judgmental awareness, wherein you are just aware, yet you're not judging any names and forms, you're just aware. So he says that in deep sleep, Raja Janak is saying, in deep sleep, it's called Jada Samadhi. Jada because there is a veil of tamas, there is a veil of inertia. That is why you don't realize. In the waking state, self illumination seems to be diminished. Why? Because as soon as you wake up, you start this is that, this is that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So in the waking state, self illumination seems to be diminished. Yet, realization of that light is considered to be a state of savikalpa samadhi, which means you're moving about in the world, doing things, yet in the back of your mind, you're aware of that light that is flooding through your mind, through the senses, onto the objects, and illuminating your world. Such a state is a state of savikalpa samadhi. So we already talked about jada samadhi. In jada samadhi, you are asleep, you are in deep sleep, yet you are very close, but you are unaware because the veil of inertia is covered. In savikalpa samadhi, you are aware of the light of the self that is flooding through the mind into the senses onto the objects. You're just aware. And then there is nirvikalpa samadhi. In nirvikalpa samadhi, there are no objects. You are established in a state of witness, in an absolute state of witness all the time. So he goes on to say, in deep sleep, there is undifferentiated experience. Undifferentiated as in you're not defining objects. You have forgotten the world, you're just in an undifferentiated experience. But it is completely veiled by inertia. It is full of light, but sheds its light on other objects and it is unable to illuminate itself. That is why the learned ones have used the simile, deep sleep is like an oil lamp. Anyway, so if we understand what is Jada Samadhi, what is Savikalpa Samadhi, and what is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that's all, because we need to walk away with practical tips we can use. In the waking state, practice Savikalpa Samadhi here and there. And in the coming chapter, Raja Janak tells Ashtavakra how many times during the day we experience that state of samadhi. But since we don't know, we never pay attention. But today we have learned how to get into that witness state. Play with it, fluff around with it while going through the day. See what happens. Enter that state of savikalpa samadhi, wherein you're just from observing, you have moved to witnessing for a few seconds. Every now and then, for a few seconds. Take it as a play. Like, when we were young, we used to play Ghar Ghar. Similarly, play meditation, or Samadhi. Play with it. Those who practice and attain direct experience see the difference in those three kinds of experience. The differences are known to those who practice. See, he's very clearly saying, don't walk away thinking, oh, now I know what Nirvikalp Samadhi is, what Savikalp Samadhi is, what Jada Samadhi is. It is just a bunch of intellectual burden. He's saying those who practice and attain direct experience see the difference in these three kinds of experience. The differences are known to those who practice. In Samadhi, there is only pure consciousness. In deep sleep, consciousness remains dormant. Diversity is seen in the waking state. But in Samadhi, only one absolute reality exists. You see, in deep sleep, forget about deep sleep. We are least concerned about it because anyway we are asleep. Let's talk about waking state. And let's talk about this witness state. In waking state, diversity. You willfully first look at diversity. Let your mind observe the diversity and then say, now let's go back into the state of illumination. Let's go back into the state of witness and practice that witness more. Throughout, self-illumined Atman is one and the same and always remains free from all afflictions. You see, that self-illumined Atman is Tripura Sundari. That self permeates the waking state and lights up all the world of names and forms. That same self lights up Savikalp Samadhi, Nirvikalp Samadhi, deep sleep, dream state. And it is because of the presence of that self we are able to experience these states. So the true beauty of a waking state is the self. The true beauty of the dream state is the presence of the self. The true beauty of the deep sleep is the presence of the self. The true beauty of the fourth state is the presence of the self, which is why she is called Tripura Sundari. Then he goes on to say, in daily life, samadhi and sleep can be experienced for a few moments, but because of prolonged deep sleep, the wise can differentiate between sleep and samadhi. Samadhi is a profound experience of desirelessness because desires begin with the first thought, which is I. Because I exist, I related desires exist. If I doesn't exist, there are no desires, which is why Samadhi is a profound experience of desirelessness because there is no I. It's just a witness. As soon as I comes, then comes I. Maybe I should end this session. Maybe I should just go to sleep. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should eat that. All desires begin with I. And Samadhi is a profound experience of desirelessness. Such a state is also experienced in sleep and sometimes in the waking state also. So if, let's say you are running, you run, and then you're huffing and puffing, you're out of breath, and finally you stop. At that point, you experience Samadhi. Because there are no desires, there's no I thought. You just have to experience this. So he goes on to describe many incidents wherein, you can experience that short spurts of samadhi. But, I'm saying why depend on those things to happen to experience it when you can willfully do it. Whatever you're watching in front of you, get in the observing mode first. As soon as the observing mode is done, get into a witness state. Why wait for some things to happen to get a spark, get a little glimpse of the samadhi? Why not enter it willfully? And finally, it's so funny how Raja Janak ends this chapter. He says, therefore, Ashtavakra, sleep is not the ultimate goal of goals. So, the takeaway from today is play with the witness state, experience the witness state, practice the witness state. So, on that note, let us now open. If anyone wants to say anything, add anything, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Komal, you might have to. Okay, go ahead, Mansi. You were able to. I'll mute myself.
Okay. Just one interesting thing. Just before he makes the cute statement ending this chapter, there is this one line which he says, I will read that out first. It says that consciousness experienced in samadhi is beyond time and space. The awareness of nothingness, the light of lights engulfs all darkness, and pure consciousness alone exists. How can that power be the cause of deep sleep? Now, why I read this, I'll tell you.
We can't hear you, Mansi. Mansi, we can't hear you. Can others hear Mansi? Mansi?
No, can't hear.
Mansi, we can't hear you. Yeah, we can't hear Mansi. I'm going to message her to drop off from the call and add her back again. So go ahead, Lakshmi, you have a question? You have something to add?
Yeah, can you go over how to play with the witness state again?
Yes.
Thank you.
So whatever is in front of you, first willfully get in an observing mode and go into detail and look at everything around you and let your mind tell you, oh, it is this. Let it define, let it judge, give it full freedom to do that for a few moments. Now, leaving everything as is, say there is no more definitions, no more judgment, and just witness. I can only give pointers, Lakshmi.
Yes.
Only the grace of the Divine Mother can reveal this.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Komal, go ahead and mute Lakshmi, please. Saurabh, go ahead.
Uh, Regarding this witnessing part, this
Mm-hmm.
earlier we discussed about perceiver and the perceived,
Mm-hmm.
and that in two levels. Like first was object, and mind was the perceiver. Then
Mm-hmm.
consciousness was the perceiver, and mind
Mm-hmm.
was the perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the difference between this and the witness?
Very, very nice question. It's actually the same. In
Oh,
that witness state, who is witnessing who? The consciousness is witnessing the mind. Mind
yes,
is quiet.
yes.
You're right, 100%.
Okay.
Mansi, can you drop off and join back? Because we couldn't hear you. Or at least try to unmute yourself and continue. No, no, let the. Okay. Let's do the closing chant and then you can stop the recording. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. You can stop the recording now, please.